My best friend growing up, Rob, is a resident playwright. We got to do a lot of things, you know, and a lot of people in our creative writing class, which I was talking about making that movie about Bob Reed's creative writing class at R.L. Pascal High School called Rob Writes Creative Writing Vignette. We got a lot to show. Like, Rob has a lot of plays. I've written a lot of plays. I've done a lot of theater. I've got to go out to Hollywood to be an extra and do some indie films. I've done some indie films in Dallas as an actor. So the one thing that we haven't got to do as artists is a major motion picture. Like a major motion picture, that's a big deal, where it's released in all the theaters. It's kind of the backing of this vlog. I do plan to release Lynn Driver, or the second burst of it. But if I were to go back to, let's say, the high school reunion, which I probably won't go, but I wanted to return with my wife and children, and that would have been the ultimate revenge. This is the way I think, I'm sorry. Showing up with my wife and children is showing the things that God, you know, gave me. But, you know, doing a major motion picture, that's pretty big revenge, you know, us being interviewed at like Cannes. And if of course, if I make it, then part of my funding would go to, and Rob knows, I would, you know, all the choices that I've made and stuff like that have gone back to help my friends. Not all of them, but to help some of them. The earnest ones that love the cinema, that love the theater, that love the plays, that love that kind of stuff and put hard work into it. And I would definitely help. I'd give money to that to see him blossom as an artist as well as me. But a major motion picture can set all those things in motion. A major motion picture can get you that theater house and a group of people, the trustworthy people that would come together to tell stories, you know, your own personal globe kind of thing. And it is a dream of mine. This is a great honor to have the vlog, you know, to be able to talk about it all, if not even a bigger deal, but still a pretty big deal. And I'm thankful to YouTube for that. But that's just something I just wanted to talk about. I headed to Ashim's Hibachi Grill. Now, I remember when I was in Bob Reed's creative writing class at the time, when that Aaron Goldblatt incident happened with Shay, who in the story, I'm changing their names to Baron Mold Snatch. Yeah, instead of Aaron Goldblatt, it'd be Baron Mold Snatch. Instead of Shay, it would just be Ray. Regardless, before that rumor or whatever it was that happened, I was in the staircase with Travis and a few other writers, and we were reading poetry, I believe. And also I was working on a little short story or novella, I guess, maybe possible. It was about 10 pages typing of a story about my sister and I being lost in the woods. I wanted to turn it into a novel one day. Remember getting in an argument with Bob Reed about that because it kind of cut off and it wasn't a conclusion. So Josh Groom reported that to Bob Reed. Bob Reed's like, well, we got to have a story that concludes, that has a denouement, and it doesn't just cut off. So I was like, okay, I understand, but, you know, I'm trying to bring my grade point average up and all this stuff. He's like, well, okay. I was like, well, we're only required to write 5 pages for the short story. I'm already at 10 pages, you know. And this is kind of dialogue that we would have in the novella. But I remember those things. So sometimes those stories are important, you know. I won't use the real names like I am now in the vlog, just because I like changing names. So Aaron Goldblatt will be Baron Mold Snatch. Shay would be Ray. The woman could be called Ray, or a lady. Rob Vasquez would be called Toby Skez. Jordan McKnight, probably call him Borden Knight. Walker, forgot about Walker. Yeah, Walker. Yeah, he'd do backward rolls when he'd laugh, literally, during the playwriting segment. Chalker. He had this nickname called Chalker. Josh Groom. Tosh. Vroom. Tosh Vroom. Jenny Gerard, I think I came up with a name for her. Jennifer Gerard, I think is what I said. Or Jen Gerard. Jen Gerard. Stephanie Black is Steffi White. They all sound similar to their real names. So we can kind of know. Bob Reed, the teacher, would be Rob Wright. That's his name. Rob Wrights. Rob Wrights creative writing vignette. These things always work when you change the names. Grant Ellis is Rant. I think Bellis. Rant Bellis. Jennifer Chowning is, I think she would go by Jennifer Chow. Kate Thistlethwaite is Cat. Thorn Patience. Cat Thorn Patience. I guess her first name was Cat, middle name Thorn, last name Patience. Cat Patience. That's how you remember these things. They make a pretty good play too, but I'd rather probably go with the short story and then maybe turn it into a screenplay. There's quite a bit of students in there. I'm trying to think of some other names of the students. Marcy's name is Darcy. All right, back to Bob Wright's creative vignette story. Borden Knight is the brother of Trevor's Knight. So his real name was Travis McKnight, but his name in the story will be Trevor's Knight. But he was in the creative writing class. Borden wasn't. Borden Knight. He was an outsider, but he was in a typing class, and he's a better poet than all of them for sure. I don't know where he's at now. The last time I heard, he was under a bridge. I told him when I messaged him in Facebook, I said, remember the old saints, they were only given a staff. They were only allowed to have a staff to spread the word of God. He'd definitely be Borden Knight. So, I hope his brother found him. Are you your brother's keeper? The answer is yes. You are your brother's keeper. But that's a tough one that goes out through generation to generation, especially through Cain and Abel. But yes, you are your brother's keeper. Remember that. Another important thing that's said in Bob Wright's creative writing vignette. Is that a dog sticking its head out of the window over there? Those are hard to get. I can't tell. No, it's actually Rob's Wright's. That's right, it's not Bob, it's Rob Wright's creative writing vignette. Rob's Wright. To rob the rights. To write. You gotta rob them at times. Rob's Wrights. Well, you gotta take initiative and write the story. Definitely on the horizon. Right now, we focus on Escape from Maine. The next scene that we'll be working on tonight will be the scene when Mom and Jonah arrive in Dover, Foxcroft, Maine. And there's ice everywhere, all that's listening. And I may get to the segment where he's driving around in circles, but I think I'm going to focus on one scene at a time. So we're only going to do the Dover, Foxcroft scene for tonight when they arrive. Then when he gets lost, coming back from Waterville will be the next night. Because I got to focus on one thing at a time to make it good. It'll take time. That's why you can never rush a script. I will spill my beans about the creative writing class, and this is a true story. Nowhere on this planet has there been more beautiful women in one room ever than Bob Reed's creative writing class of 1993 alumni. The most beautiful women on this planet were all in one room. I'm not lying. This is a true story. Now, I had many crushes, but I have to admit, the one that I was really passionately in love with was, of course, Jennifer. And we would quarrel at times. She wasn't in that class. She was in an art class. But I wanted her to be my beloved. But, you know, she had the Catholic background, I had the Protestant. So we went our ways. But regardless, that's who I was faithful to. Now, who did I have crushes on? I had crushes on many. Try to go down this way. Well, Jenny Chowning and I would hang out in my Porsche, 1973 Roadster, red Porsche with it had the hard top. But we were only friends. She was a friend girl. But then we would go to Allison Ball's house, and Allison was a swimmer. So Allison was really tall. She was into Sonic Youth. We were all just friends, you know, giggling friends. But yeah, I kind of had a little, like a mature crush on her. And then, of course, Jenny, I think Gerard. Jenny, I think she went by Jenny Gerard? Yeah, I think it was Jenny Gerard. She sat next to me and had these, like, mystic eyes and just smoking hot body. I'm gonna switch over so we can see the downtown area. Jenny Gerard had a brother too. She was very smart. And Rob and I paired, Rob paired us up in a play, a beautiful play that he wrote. I think should be on Broadway, or at least a short play called Slow Dancers. Beautiful play. He wrote it in high school because Rob was a prodigy. He was a genius, by far, when it came to playwriting. And we did that play in high school, you know, for the end of the year vignette. So the end of the vignette, we were required to write plays. Mine was called A Walk Through the Park, but I misspelled through, T-H-R-E-W rather than T-H-R-O-U-G-H. But really, it's a walk in the park. But regardless, we all had to write our own little plays. I remember all of the plays like the back of my hand. Every single one of them. I remember all of them. Remember Charlie and Birdie, Rob Busquets and Travis McKnight's play. They all remember all of them. We'll never forget those plays. Those are important plays. We did them we presented them in the auditorium behind the curtain. So we sat behind the curtain and, you know, we typed them up and we presented the plays there. Everybody's play was great. I remember Grant Ellis's play was about, I think that was Grant Ellis's play. It was about me stepping in the shower and then coming out in Paris. It had something to do with me going in the shower and then coming out in Paris. And, you know, people were speaking French and stuff. But everybody had these little plays. Regardless, we had these assignments that we had to do in that creative writing class. Sometimes we'd write poetry, sometimes short stories, sometimes plays, sometimes we would take photos. And I took a photo of this building right here, which is the Burnett building. And I presented that. It's right off this road of Cherry. And Cherry is actually in the shot. The word Cherry is in the shot. It's about like that. It was a black and white photo. I developed it, pretty much developed it myself with the help of Brandon Carter. There was a lot that went on in that creative writing class. It'd make a great movie, even a great series. I have to change the names though. Using the real names would be crazy. But they'd find it out. They find out the real names, everybody. Everybody knows Bob Dylan's real name. Come on, we know Bob Dylan's real name. It's kind of hard to recall. Bob Dylan Zimmerman. Is it Robert Zimmerman? Regardless, people have real names, but I think we should change the names anyway. It's fun to do that. It'd be a fun project. I gotta pick up this sushi and drop it off at your doorstep. I can't believe Taylor Sheridan went there. Out of all people, I cannot believe that. He was a soap opera actor that turned into a film actor that turned into a great screenwriter. Not a vlogger though, not yet. Vlogging's new. It's a new way. Kind of like how when Marcel Marceau invented mime, he was creating a new theater. This is a new film and media revolution. I forgot my point. Yeah, they got fine wine right here. I remember Bob Reed was a fan of Woody Allen. We'd go see a movie, a Woody Allen movie, Husbands and Wives. He was in the audience. We're like, hey, there's Bob Reed. He's at a Woody Allen movie. What is it, right here? Yeah, here it is, right here. It's a hibachi, Ashim's hibachi grill. He was really nice to me, Bob was. He told me one time, he said, Cole, he said, this play you're working on, blah, blah, blah. You know all the best, you know, because I cast him in my play. And I can't remember exactly why he approached me about the play, but he was in the play. He performed in my play. He was the old man in it. He said, you've read the best. You've read the best of them. That's what he said, as if I knew all of them. He was probably the greatest creative writing teacher that I've ever had. I never had to pursue another creative writing class. I learned what I needed to learn in his. By far, one of the best teachers when it comes to laying out a content and creating a class that kept you on your toes and super happy because of the creative work. He wore a bow tie. He was a thin guy. Hope he's still around. And he was working on his own novel called Redbird Blackbird, about the Civil War, which is interesting because I include some of that in Escape from Maine, some of my own take on the Civil War. But yeah, he said, you read the best of them, is what he said. Almost as if I've read all of them. In a way, we kind of have. You know, you read one of them, you read them all. Things that we say are so important in creative writing. Things that we talk about. You know, the words that we use. I'm going to park at the YMCA. What a great teacher, though. What an earnest teacher. A sincere teacher. One that loved literature with all his heart. And was a big fan of W.B. Yeats. I think he was a huge fan of Henry David Thoreau. You know, The Pond. Walden's Pond. You know, which is, I think that's pretty much in the Maine area. You have to read about Walden's Pond. I think Henry David Thoreau went to Maine, at least in that area, to study. Pretty sure he has. I saw some plaques when I was in Maine. Let's just do transcendentalism. Sometimes shutting it off is the best thing of all. Dealing with this world of technology. If only I could. Okay. Change that thing. All right, let's pick up some hibachi grill. Now, I'm not claiming that a vlog can be a book, but you can put it on CC and it turns into a book. Some writers have had to do it. What Steve Hawkins had to go through to write his stuff. So sound is important. But you can put it on CC, or you can read what's called the transcript underneath. It turns into a book. Depending on how well you speak, will quicken the actual writing of the process. But we have interpreters. There are interpreters. So now that we moved into this medium, instead of having an editor, you'd probably have an editor, but you would have what's known as an interpreter. Someone that can interpret the work through the phonetics. And, you know, everybody probably has that. Now, of course, Google is very good at doing that. They're a universal group, so they can actually do that. You're just doing that right there. It's all over the place. Back in the day, you had a memo pad and a memo pad and a pen. Eventually a typewriter. And those things went to the editor. There could be a team that could take over. But we are dealing with visual too, which makes it much fun. Or in some cases funner. There we are. Hibachi. That sign right there says the entrance is this way. So I walk over this way and I'm not really seeing much of an entrance. Unless that's it right there. Yeah, that's fine. Now it's time to get all David Lynch with an elf that goes into a wall. It's nice and warm. Alpine. Got a bunch of them right here. Steak, and that is the tower right here. Texas, where the West begins. You can only kill them with kindness. That's the only way. To be kind. Say kill them with kindness. It's an old saying. Just to be kind. It's kind of funny if you do the opposite. Doesn't really kill them, does it? Reminds me of some of the poles that are used in Swamp Fest. So I recently watched the Swamp Fest 2023 out in the Woo. Man, freaking just completely classic, iconic footage. Thank you. Appreciate you. That's the Trinity River. Serenity Park, where they do Shakespeare. Shakespeare in the Park.
Approaching a railroad crossing.
We know about that railroad crossing. Herd. Let's go drop off that sushi. Passing Buck Avenue. We're dropping this one off of mistletoe. Christmas time, if you get under the mistletoe, you get a little kiss of me. That's a real funny one in Kissimmee, Florida. Little mistletoe joke that I come up with just now. I don't really talk this way, just at times I do. I'm actually from England. My ancestry is, of course. Now we're turning straight and moving on mistletoe.